Well, everyone, Andy Surowicz with Altero Software here, coming to you once again from the expo floor at Microsoft Ignite 2018 here in Orlando, Florida. Well, I've got a good friend of mine here. I've got Fredrik Nilsson from Dell. How's it going?
It's fine. It's crazily busy. So
what is it, 35,000 people here is the number I keep hearing? It's
amazing. It's amazing, yeah.
It is. I've shot a couple of interviews this week where you have people walking through the shop, but there's 35,000 people here. There's only so much room to go around, right? Well, this is a great conference, and we've heard a lot of great stuff from Microsoft this week. And I know you're a big Azure Stack guy, and I want to get into Azure Stack with you a little bit. But first thing, for our viewers that may not know who you are, can you kind of introduce yourself and let us know what you do for Dell?
Yes, I am a principal engineer with product technology focusing on Azure Stack at Dell.
So I imagine they keep you pretty busy, especially with how big that technology is getting now.
Yes, and it's big and it's growing. So the sessions here, I've been amazed. It's like full packed rooms, and I was expecting like smaller rooms, but it's getting crazy.
It's the bigger rooms. So that's a good indication that they're on point with the technology, right? So, well, I think for me, the folks that I've talked to in the industry, when it comes to Azure Stack, the big question that I always run into is use case. People want to know, where does it fit? Hey, I've got my on-premises servers here. Why would I replace them with an Azure Stack? Or maybe it's a service provider and they provide hosting services. Why would I step outside of my traditional hosting architecture and use Azure Stack? So I guess to start, what is the main use case you see for Azure Stack in your travels?
So the main use case for Azure Stack is Azure. So the place in the market where Azure Stack fits is where you want Azure, but you have constraints. Let's say you're on an oil rig. The connectivity through satellite from an oil rig to a public, that is a pain. So you could be manufacturing on an actual oil rig, let's say in Texas. There's a lot of metrics. When they drill down, they go to bedrock. We all seen Armageddon. So all those metrics they need to make sure that the drill doesn't get stuck. So, and they are out in the middle of nowhere. So Azure really doesn't work for them, but they want that technology.
So really it's really comes down to being an extension of Azure. So you get that power, you get that flexibility. When a lot of people hear about Azure Stack, they think, oh, it's just a new mechanism for me to run VMs, and that's not true. You get VMs, but that's not the only thing it does. You can actually do PaaS with Azure Stack as well, which is really interesting to me. So you really get that power and flexibility of Azure, but right inside of your data center. So that's really interesting. Now the next thing, we talked about kind of what the intended use case is there. How wide do you see that use case going? And when I say wide, sure, it's going to work for the large enterprises. Is it going to work for the smaller organizations of the world as well? Because I know the entry point is pretty high. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So that example is, that was in the production industry or a manufacturing industry. We have service providers that might have data constraints, that some data needs to be here. So be on site. It could be trade secrets, because it could be something that they really don't want to put in a patent for, because then people start to rip that off. So it's trade secrets. We have customers that are in retail systems, in larger retail chains. So the use case it just keeps growing. But the only thing that I really want to stress out is that Azure Stack will never compete with Azure. It will not be cheaper than Azure. Many of it's not an uncommon thing to think that, hey, we can start compete with Azure now. But the price will be above or in parity with Azure.
Yes, I can see a lot of interesting use cases there, and that's a good point you bring up about Azure too, because it's just supposed to be that extension.
Yes.
Now, if I put my hosting hat on for a second, I could see Azure being really I could see it being really useful to me from a billing perspective. So if I go back to my days working for an MSP, doing hosting for customers, a customer makes a request, says, hey, I need 2 DCs and a file server and an RDS server.
Yeah.
Okay, we go over here, we deploy it, we configure it, we give the customer access to it. Now those customers, those end customers that have their own IT staff, if I have an Azure Stack, I can provide them access to the portal of the Azure Stack, correct, and let them do it, and I just collect the hosting bill at the end of the month.
Yes. So that is one way to do it, and that's most of the service providers are thinking in that way. It's like a margin sale, right. And the biggest difference. So Azure Stack is not a one size fits all. Right. It's basically a one size. It fits for this kind of those kinds of workloads. So it's not there to replace a System Center enabled private cloud. It's not there to replace Hyper-V. There are technologies that we know and we love. That it's supposed to be used for that. But one aspect of, even if Azure Stack is not intended to run IaaS workloads, it does it pretty well. And the operational costs on the is lower than on the traditional private cloud. So there's ups and downs in all of it, but yeah.
Right, definitely. I mean, agility is the big thing. I mean, I look at it and I think all the stuff that I could do with it. I mean, it's just amazing to think about that. So the last thing I wanted to touch base on was from a support perspective. If I'm a customer, I've had an Azure Stack installed, inside of my data center. How much footwork am I talking about for day-to-day ongoing support? Am I gonna have to work really hard at that, or is it? I guess what's the story behind that is really what I'm asking.
Yeah. So the support of Azure Stack differs. Azure Stack is an appliance, right. So the OEM vendors and Microsoft had worked together to build this appliance. So once this appliance is installed, and I get questions like, I really want to learn how to install this. It most likely won't happen, right. Because you buy it like a car. You don't get your car in small pieces. You buy it, the car. Right. You choose your color and then you go. But so the OEM and Microsoft shares the support burden. Okay. So the OEM is responsible for the hardware and the switching and all that, and Microsoft for the software.
That's really a nice. I mean, that's a nice setup, because now me, the customer, the person consuming Azure Stack, I can worry about what's important to me, right? And that is doing what I do. Yes. So, I mean, that's really a great use case, and that's the answer I was hoping to get out of you. So, well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. It's been great having you on. Yep, getting a little bit more information from you. So, thanks for that.
Thank you.
If people are interested in connecting with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter. I am Fredrik @Fredrik_Nilsson_, but that could be a mouthful. So Fredrik_Nilsson at Outlook.com or at Dell.com if it's work related. So.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks, Fredrik. And thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to check out our other Ignite related content. Thanks for watching.